Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've been following along, you know we've been breaking down Tamir Hatcham's golden path to financial independence, that three-stage, 13-step framework.
That's right. And so far, our deep dives have been entirely focused on stage one, the psychological part.
The mindset shift.
Exactly, the non-negotiable part. It wasn't about spreadsheets at all. It was about changing your identity from, an employee or a survivor to an owner, an architect of your own future.
And we set the target. A measurable FI number based on a lifestyle you designed, plus that really critical 15 to 20% buffer.
Right.
So now we're at the moment a lot of people have been waiting for. You've done the mindset work, you've got the goal, and the temptation is just, it's huge right now. I call it technical impatience.
Yeah, you just want the tactics.
You want the tactics.
Exactly.
Which index fund, how to analyze a property, tell me how the 4% rule works. You want to jump straight to the offense.
It's totally understandable. I mean, we're all drawn to the excitement of growth, of optimization.
Yeah.
But the framework is very, very clear that rushing into that now is, well, it's strategically flawed.
It's the wrong place to start.
It's the absolute wrong place to start. It pretty much guarantees instability later on. Hatcham insists on what he calls strategic patience because the sequence, the architectural order, is just, it's everything.
Okay, so let's lock in that sequence. We're moving from mindset into actual practical action. We're officially entering stage 2 of the path. Financial resilience. What's the mission here?
The mission for stage 2 is it's purely defensive. It's foundational. We're just building awareness, order, and absolute control.
Okay.
And the core argument, and we really can't say this enough, is that financial resilience, which is stability, has to be secured before you even think about pursuing wealth, which is growth.
So resilience first, it's a prerequisite.
A non-negotiable prerequisite for any kind of sustainable growth.
Why is that sequence so sacred, though? I mean, if I have some money to invest, why can't I just start being aggressive while I figure out my spending?
Think of it like this. Skipping stage 2 is like deciding you're going to build a skyscraper. But you don't pour the foundation first.
You're just building on dirt.
You're building on shifting sand. Maybe even a swamp. You want the glory of the tall building. That's the growth. But any success you have is just, it's precarious. You're setting yourself up for maximum risk.
And if you're exposed like that, the growth you get isn't just threatened, it's actually dangerous.
Precisely. Let's say you invest aggressively. You find that hot index fund. But you haven't dealt with your high-interest debt. Or, and this is the big one, you haven't built an emergency fund. You are structurally fragile.
So when something goes wrong?
And it will. The inevitable market correction or a personal crisis, a job loss, a surprise medical bill.
Yeah.
You have no buffer.
And with no buffer, the situation dictates your actions. You have no choice.
It forces you into the panic cycle. The market drops 25%, and suddenly you need cash for rent because you have no savings. What do?
You have to sell.
You're forced to liquidate those assets you just bought. You sell them at the absolute bottom of the market, locking in a huge loss just to cover basic needs. It's the ultimate failure-destroying future wealth to survive the present.
So stage 2 isn't about the exciting returns. It's about building that defensive wall, that financial structure that gives you the psychological endurance to just ignore the noise.
Yes, it lets you wait out the storm.
Yeah.
The wall separates your life, your day-to-day, from your assets. And once that defensive structure is locked in, you have genuine resilience. Only then can you confidently move to the offensive, to growth in stage 3.
Okay, this is critical. Let's get into the first practical step of this defensive stage. This is step 3 on the overall path. Self-transparency. Full financial mapping. What's the action here?
The first action is just confronting reality. And it's worth pausing here and, asking yourself, the listener, if you had to right now, could you write down every single dollar you spent last month?
Every dollar.
And categorize it accurately?
I think for most people, the answer is a very humbling no. We know kind of where the big chunks went, but not the details.
And that lack of detail, that's why people feel surprised at the end of the month. They feel lost. We have this comfortable sort of approximate picture in our heads, but it's usually wrong. And those errors are where the financial leaks happen.
So why do we avoid this? It seems simple. We're adults, we earn money, and we spend it. Why do we actively avoid looking at our own statements?
Because clarity can be painful. It's human nature. We often prefer a comfortable delusion over the stark reality of our bank account.
Right.
Facing the exact numbers means we have to confront our decisions, the impulse buys, the things we regret, the habits that are actively working against our own goals.
That sounds like a recipe for self-criticism. If I look and see I spent hundreds on takeout or subscriptions I don't even use, my first instinct is to judge myself.
And that's exactly why Hodgson defines self-transparency as an act of personal responsibility, not judgment or criticism.
Okay.
It's just a willingness to see reality for what it is, independent of how you feel about it. It's not a moral statement. It's an engineering requirement. You simply cannot manage what you do not measure.
So the action is a detailed, honest financial map, laying all four elements on the table: income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. You're mapping the whole terrain.
Exactly. And it has to be rigorous. We're not just looking for rent and the mortgage payment. We are hunting for that insidious leakage that just drains your resilience.
The small stuff.
The small stuff that adds up. That $10 daily coffee habit. That's over $2,600 a year. That discovery alone might change your behavior. Or it's a subscription creep, 3 or 4 services you haven't touched in 6 months, still auto-debiting.
Those small leaks feel like nothing on a daily basis, but
Yeah.
over a year, they're the difference between building a surplus and just breaking even.
They absolutely are. And the goal of the mapping is to create a complete, unbiased financial compass, a lighthouse in the dark. It illuminates where your resources are actually flowing. Without that painful clarity, every other move is built on an assumption.
And assumptions lead to failure.
Exactly. Once that map is done, then we can move to control.
So we've lit up the landscape. We know where the money's coming from, where it's going. Now the architect needs a steering wheel. And that brings us to the second practical step of stage 2, which is step 4 overall: conscious budgeting.
Right. If transparency gives you the data, conscious budgeting gives you the framework for action. And the tool for control is simple. It's the budget. The principle is blunt. Without a budget, your money controls you. You're just reacting to your bank balance instead of being proactive with your capital.
I think we need to spend some time here because the word budgeting, it has such terrible baggage. For most people, it just conjures up feelings of deprivation, fear, endless cutting.
Being yelled at by a spreadsheet.
Yes, exactly that.
And that's the traditional view we have to just discard. That kind of fear-based, restrictive model is only focused on scarcity. Conscious budgeting in this framework is something totally different.
So how do we draw that line for someone listening?
Conscious budgeting is defined as a framework for conscious choice. It's about control over the life you're designing. It's not about deprivation. It's about deliberate allocation.
So you're not asking, what can I cut?
No. You're shifting the question to, how do I allocate my capital this month to best serve the owner and the architect I've decided to become?
So my budget actually reflects my values, not my fears. If I decided in stage 1 that my highest value is future freedom, then the budget is just the tool that makes sure my spending honors that value.
Precisely. The budget is the financial framework where your priorities become real numbers. It forces you to distinguish between what's important, the capital for your freedom machine, and what's unimportant, a true need versus a temporary whim.
And if my current spending habits are actually undermining my goal, the budget creates the structure to force that realignment.
It forces the realignment and, maybe more importantly, it removes daily decision fatigue. When you define your budget, so much for groceries, so much for entertainment, so much for savings, you're essentially pre-approving your own spending.
You've already made the strategic decision.
You have. So when you go to the store, the question isn't, can I afford this? It's, does this fit the structure I, the architect, already built?
It's a funny paradox, isn't it, that defining a budget, which feels like a limitation, is actually the action that buys you freedom, the freedom to spend without anxiety.
Because the structure guarantees that every dollar is intentional. It makes sure the capital for your stability and growth is allocated first. It stops the leaks we found in step 3 and directs those resources to building the resilience wall.
So we have these 2 steps: self-transparency, the map, and conscious budgeting, the control. The sources say they have to work in perfect synergy. What happens if you try to do step 4 without fully doing step 3?
Well, budgeting is action, right?
Yeah.
But if you try to budget without the honest financial map from step 3, your budget is built on bad data. It's guesswork.
So you think you spent a certain amount, but you're wrong.
Exactly. Let's say you guess you spend $600 a month on dining out. You allocate that in your new budget.
But the map, the real data, shows you've actually been spending $1,100.
Right. Your budget is instantly broken by $500 of leakage you didn't even know was there. The system fails on day 1. You overspend, you feel guilty, you abandon the budget, and you're back to financial chaos.
You have to measure where you are before you can plan where to go.
You must. The map prevents the budget from being an exercise in self-deception.
Okay, so what about the other way around? Why is transparency not enough on its own? If I have the map, if I know where the leaks are, isn't that knowledge enough to start making changes?
Mapping gives you awareness. It gives you the full, sometimes painful picture. But awareness alone is never enough to achieve a big multi-year goal like financial independence. Awareness is static. Action needs a dynamic framework.
So knowing the destination isn't the same as having the flight plan.
That's a perfect way to put it. Transparency shows you the problem. Conscious budgeting gives you the strategic operation, the structure, the discipline to act on that awareness. It's the steering wheel you need to aim your money directly at your FI target, month after month.
Okay, so let's just recap where we are on this journey. We established the owner-architect identity, we measured the FI target, and now we've taken the first two critical practical steps.
Right. Self-transparency, so we have the map based on reality, and conscious budgeting, which is the steering wheel of control.
And these two foundational steps are just the beginning of stage 2.
They're the essential internal systems that get your financial life ready for stabilization. Once you have this awareness and structure locked in, then you can move on to the core defensive work of true resilience.
And that defense, which we'll cover in our next deep dive, is the rest of stage 2. Step 5 is stabilizing cash flow. Step 6 is building an automatic savings habit. And then the big ones.
The crucial defensive moves. Step 7, building that untouchable emergency fund. And Step 8, strategically eliminating high-interest debt.
And those steps finish building that impenetrable wall.
They do. Only then, with full stability and awareness secured, do we let the architect finally move into the aggressive, offensive phase of growth.
We talked earlier about that core identity shift from dependent to architect. And that identity has to flow through every single decision.
It does. And here's a final thought to take with you for the week. Something to tie the strategy to your daily life. Now that you're starting to view money as capital to build a freedom machine, what happens if you look at every single purchase this week, every spending decision, strictly through the lens of a long-term asset owner?
Is this purchase building my system?
Exactly. Is that $30 purchase building or accelerating your system? Is it capital invested in the architect's plan? Or is it just immediate consumption that keeps you locked in dependency?
The map is being drawn. The steering wheel is in your hands. Join us next time as we continue with stage 2, tackling the next essential steps for building genuine, unshakable financial resilience. We look forward to diving deeper with you then.